I want all your attention now for this great guy. He is really great in real life too. Mr. Johnny Soporno!
Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Oh, no problem.
Being unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I'm going to spend a little while talking to you all and trying to give you some new insights on some things that I expect some of you have already heard, and some things that I suspect are going to be reasonably radical. But I'm delighted to see the turnout, and I'm very, very happy that you're here. I was actually just in the green room talking with a couple of my colleagues, Zan and Adam Lyons, and we were all giggling because the three of us are all on respected top 10 lists of the world's greatest pickup artists, whereas none of us would self-describe as pickup artists. None of us would feel good if someone were to say, oh, he's a pickup artist. In fact, we're all pretty much in agreement. Right now, there's a huge movement of people, especially guys who are in this community, guys who are places like this right now, who've decided that what they really want to be is a pickup artist. And the thing about it is, there are no groups of guys who get together like this and say, what I really want to be is a con artist. I want to get together with a whole bunch of other guys and talk about ways we can get something of value from someone else for nothing. But you see, our society has a tremendous sexual cartel. And the cartel says, to women, you are forbidden to make sex available for less than the value of security. See, women crave security. It's a fundamental craving for women. They crave it, they want it, and until they figure out for themselves that they can genuinely generate their own security for themselves, they believe they have to get it from other people. And as long as they believe they have to get it from other people, they'll feel they have to, at least on the outside, appear to be following other people's rules. Now, men, alternatively, as our primal need, crave approval. I often say that a boy doesn't become a man until he overcomes his fear of disapproval. And a man doesn't become free until he overcomes that craving for approval in the first place. So, we have this situation of this sexual cartel, which has ordered women, in order to be able to be eligible for security, they must never make sex available unless they are profiting from it. But at the same time, very same time, we have this community of guys who look at women and say, aha, we're going to offer women security. We're going to present ourselves as being strong, independently minded, powerful, effective guys. We're going to give them demonstrations of our high value. So these women will decide, yeah, this guy's a real winner, someone I want to catch and keep. And then the guys are going to be going to themselves, I'm running this same charade on many, many different women at the same time, hoping I can get into their pants. And then once I've actually had sex with them, I can move on. Therefore, not giving them the security I've promised them. And to me, if you promise something to someone in exchange for something of value and you don't give it to them, well, that makes you a con man. So to me, a pickup artist, quite simply, is a con artist in the sexual predator domain. And that's something I don't want to be associated with. Now, with this in mind, I think there are some fantastic aspects of what's happened for men worldwide, because of this seduction community. I think that people have learned all sorts of important things, like that women actually want you to succeed in getting them to go to bed with you.